Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Popmosis Film. Today we have a special guest with us. It's Vito Lapiccola. And go ahead and introduce yourself. And thank you for coming along on our journey.
Thanks for having me, guys. My name is Vito Lapiccola. I am one of the co-creators of Comics on Comics, which was one of the very first nerd podcasts. We started in 2008. We were on the Sideshow Network for a while. The Sideshow Network kind of went bye-bye, so now we do live events at like Comic-Con in San Diego and things like that. I'm also one of the co-hosts of So Fast, So Furious, the ultimate Fast and the Furious podcast, where Dominic Toretto lives his life 1/4 mile at a time. We watch the Fast and the Furious movies a quarter hour at a time and then break those 15 minutes down into agonizing detail. So my co-hosts are Zach Becerra and Anthony Ray Bench. Yes. And you would not believe what you could mine out of a 15-minute segment of a Fast and the Furious movie. So far, we've been lucky enough to have the director of the very first film. Yeah, we break it down. When I say an agonizing detail, we mean agonizing detail. But we were lucky enough to get Rob Cohen, the director of the first film, on. We had scheduled John Singleton, may he rest in peace, and no lie, he passed away like 2 weeks before we were supposed to record the episode.
Oh, wow.
So that was kind of breaking our hearts. But yeah, and so we have worked our way through the first 4 or 5 movies. We're watching them chronologically instead of, chronologically story-wise versus the movies. So we watched 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 3, and then we're going to watch 7, 8, and 9, and then Hobbs and Shaw. So we're working our way through the movies, and it's been a blast. It's pretty amazing. We have fans all around the world. We started last year in February or March. We have fans in 30 countries around the world. It's been pretty crazy. It like blew up almost immediately. It was really cool.
Cool. I heard they're going to bring back Han, right? For the new Fast and Furious, they're going to bring Han back. It's like, that's crazy.
They spoiled it in the trailer. Yeah, they spoiled it in the trailer where it shows him like walk in and But I think he's going to be a bad guy, but we'll wait and see. Yeah. Han's my favorite character, so like I'm overjoyed that he's coming back.
Totally.
I have seen Tokyo Drift and 15 minutes of Too Fast, Too Furious, and you'll figure out why I've only seen 15 minutes of Too Fast, Too Furious in the 2-hour episode of So Fast, So Furious podcast.
So Rob Cohen, that director, I was actually supposed to work as his assistant, and I was going to replace this guy that I knew through another guy. But here's the thing. I was so excited. I sent an email really quickly, and I guess it had some grammatical errors. And then the person that like referred me like lost their mind and like chewed me out, and they wouldn't hire me. It sucked. I was supposed to be his assistant. That would have been like my big break in Hollywood that never happened because of my bad grammar. Because it was like he's like, you better email him right now. And yeah, it was probably in 2006 or so. So that didn't happen.
It's a little crazy that they got you on the grammar.
It was terrible. It was really bad. Because I think I had a resume, and I think the resume was fine, and it was like a 2 short paragraph email, and I don't even know what was wrong with it. Like that upset me a lot.
Spelled excited with 2 G's. You spelled it excited.
Then who knows?
Along with Vito, joining us on this ride is Josiah, who just was talking, and also Tyler. So go and say hello, boys.
Hi.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfuckers.
Yes. Awesome. So the movie we're doing today is it's Die Hard, directed by John McTiernan. And as I was watching this movie, I actually did some research on it. And the funny thing is, it's actually based on a novel called Nothing Lasts Forever, and which is a sequel to the book called The Detective, which Frank Sinatra actually played the detective Joseph Leland. And so when they were going to make this movie, he was actually offered the role of Joseph Leland. They were actually going to redo. This movie was going to be a sequel to that. But at the time, it's like Frank Sinatra's 73 years old. there's no way he can run around Nakatomi Plaza and like shoot up Hans Gruber or anything like that. So he passed.
I'm sorry.
And then they wanted to do.
Now I really wish we got that version now, just like as a joke.
Of the elderly Frank Sinatra, just like trying to croon his way.
Hands.
Well, it was a contractual obligation that they had to offer him the sequel. So this was like completely devised separately. So there's a famous story that I've heard in Hollywood. I've never heard if it's true, that the rights for this were picked up because the producer saw the cover of the book and it had like a building with helicopters flying around it and like people shooting guns. And they bought the rights based on that. That was
they judged the book by its cover.
Didn't read it. Yeah. Didn't know what it was about, and just purchased the rights based on that. And then it was like, oh, by the way, we just bought a book that technically Frank Sinatra's already attached to. So they had to offer it to him.
Yeah, they bought the rights to the book to make it as the sequel to Commando, believe it or not, because Steven D'Souza, who wrote Commando, wanted them to get the rights to the book so they could do it as the sequel. So it was set up to be a Schwarzenegger film, but when they realized that Sinatra was supposed to be in it and he turned it down, they started pitching it to all these different people, and every person in Hollywood turned it down. And I'm talking like all the way from Schwarzenegger to Stallone, all the way down to like Don Johnson and like Lorenzo Lamas. Everybody turned this movie down, and Bruce Willis was like the absolute last choice, and nobody wanted him in the movie. And he ended up being the perfect choice, which is
wasn't
the typical Hollywood story.
TV, right? Moonlighting. He was on Moonlighting on television.
He was on Moonlighting, and
right. It was Sybil Shepherd.
Mm-hmm. Sybil Shepherd, and here's the crazy thing too, is Sybil Shepherd got pregnant during the filming, and it caused an 11-week delay, and that 11-week delay happened to line up with the shooting of Die Hard, and it allowed him to work on the movie.
That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna say this is my second time watching this film. I watched this when I was a kid with my dad, I think around 12, and I have not seen it since. And I have a lot of things
so good,
say, but I'll wait. And Paul, you're our moderator. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead. I mean, basically, it kind of segues to my first question: is
can I give us the rundown?
Oh yeah, that's right.
We kind of touched on some of these things, right?
Josiah, go ahead and hit us with the production information.
Christmas time gets us so excited. We just want to talk about the.
I know we want to get to the movie.
It's been a while since I moderated, so I'm kind of rough. It's been a couple months actually. So
this is my favorite part. This is like my thing because this is what I love about movies. The people that made them.
Like I saw you're like waiting in the wings. Like
no, you got to some of it. So like we got we have Die Hard, released on July 20th, 1988. Directed, as Paul mentioned, by John McTiernan, who was coming off of directing Predator. He'd go on to direct the best sequel to Die Hard with a Vengeance, my favorite of the Die Hard sequels. Hunt for Red October, the underrated Last Action Hero. I think it's a really legit good movie. Paul mentioned the novel by Roderick Thorpe, the screenplay, which was called Nothing Lasts Forever, and the screenplay was by Jim.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the original movie was released in 1968. So, this is like 20 years later, too. So Frank Sinatra reprising his role 20 years later. There's a version of that movie that would be interesting, but not this version for sure.
Dude, it would have been so fascinating, though, to see Sinatra call in the mob to take out Hans Gruber.
Well, because the big difference is he's in the book, it is, he is an older detective, but it's his daughter as opposed to his wife. So it's his like estranged daughter that he's going to see instead of his wife. And I've never read it, so I don't want to pretend. Because normally, like, I like to be the guy who like read the book on these things, but I can't claim that on this one. But written by Jeb Stewart and Steven D'Souza, who we mentioned. So Jeb Stewart, this was his big break. He also would go on to write Fugitive, and he wrote and directed the underrated action movie Switchback in 1997. A really good movie to check out. But Steven D'Souza is
a really mighty big word, underrated.
Yeah. Well, no one has seen it.
I don't know why, but that name reminds me of like Face Off. I'm just like, I don't know. It's the first thing that I think of.
Switchback, kind of.
Yeah, Switchback, Face Off. I don't know.
It was probably it's the same time frame right around there.
Switchback.
So Steven D'Souza, right? We've already mentioned who wrote Commando, wrote Running Man, like the go-to action guy in the the late 80s through the early 90s. He wrote two so bad it's good movie. Like, and wrote and directed the Street Fighter movie and wrote Judge Dredd, the Stallone Judge Dredd. So I think he also wrote one of the Tomb Raider movies. So he's been all over the map with some of the best, like, very 80s action movies and some of the most sort of notorious that came in the 90s, even though they're still kind of 80s action movies. Starring Bruce Willis as John McClane, not Frank Sinatra. Bonnie Bedelia.
Bedelia.
Thank you.
Bedelia.
My handwriting is bad here. That's
all the pronunciations.
Yes, at least I don't have to say Vito's last name or my own. Holly Gennaro, she plays, or Holly McClane, depending on. Reginald Val Johnson as Sergeant Al Powell, and of course Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber, in just an absolutely iconic performance here. Budget of $28 million with a U.S. gross of $84 million and international of $141 million around the globe. And this was the first movie that one of the first R-rated movies I remember seeing. I remember seeing Predator, because as I've mentioned to these guys, I'm a distant relative of Shane Black, who was in that. And awesome. So I got to see Predator, way before I should have, because I was related to him. So I'm like, you can watch this, this guy's chest get blown open. And then,
it's a normal Tuesday.
This was like the next one. And it was funny because it was a VHS, like, recorded copy from my dad's friend that was, like, recorded off of HBO. You know what I mean? So it was like that thing. So it was like, it was bad tracking lines and everything. That's how I remember first seeing this movie. So it's just the nostalgia for this movie is very, very rich and real and personal for me. So
yeah, it's amazing to me. The Stephen D'Souza, it's very funny because they did a 30th anniversary screening last year, and I went to go see it. Reginald Val Johnson was there, and I had waited I saw Die Hard 10 or 12 times in the theater alone.
Oh wow!
I've owned it on every iteration of its, from VHS to like Laserdisc to DVD to Blu-ray. Like it's my favorite action movie of all time. And I walked up to Stephen D'Souza after the screening. I said, "I've waited 30 years to shake your hand. This movie is like my favorite screenplay of all time." And he just looked at me and went, "Great." Walked off. I was like, "You freaking douchebag!"
Awesome. You know what?
He totally was not impressed. He was just like, "Is that it? Okay, I've got people to talk to." And
he's like, "I got to go write another Judge Dredd over here too to balance out the greatness with something terrible."
It's terrible, but also kind of like
it was really funny.
It's like terrible, but kind of like a little bit like epic as well. It's just like, and just walked away. And you're just like, I just got asked by that guy.
And he's
that was totally embarrassing.
And watch him talk about the movie. It's great. He's like the best. Like when you see him talk about it, like he has the best insights, and he's a really funny guy. And so it's really cool to watch him talk about this movie compared to like just about anybody else. Everybody else has something to say, but he says it really, it's funny and interesting. So it's kind of sad, like the expectation when you meet him, it's like, yeah, well, see you later.
Paul, when did you see this movie first?
The first time I saw it, I see it on TV every once in a while around Christmas time. I only see like brief glimpses of it, and I was like, "What is this like movie? What is the movie?" So I went and I bought it on VHS and watched it all the way through, and just loved every moment of it. It's like it's the thing that always really strikes me about this movie. It's like not only it's a great action movie, it's a very clever one, And the whole play between Hans Gruber and John McClane, like they, throughout the course of the movie, they one up each other, and it's interesting how, like Hans is like, he's a very nuanced, complex villain. Like he's a fully formed character in his own right, and very much developed in very much as well as like John McClane himself, and so. The whole movie is just stronger because of that, and also Alan Rickman's performance. And so it's interesting, like right off of the bat, like Alan Rickman it's his first movie role, which is like amazing, but it's easily like one of the best villains of movie history.
He didn't want to do it. Did you know that? Like his story. I apologize, guys. I'm a massive Die Hard fan, so I'm going to pepper this with like tons of useless facts. But like, so Alan Rickman had been in Hollywood for literally 1 week. He got cast as Hans Gruber. He had never done a feature film in his life. John McTiernan had seen him in a play in England. He had done Valmont, and he was playing Valmont. And he was just like, this guy needs to be in the movies. So they flew him to LA, auditioned him, and hired him. He turned it down because he was aghast at the fact he'd be playing a villain in a movie, and he didn't want to be typecast as a villain. But his agent thankfully forced him to take the part. And here's another thing. It's not on a lot of the sites and stuff like that. I met a couple of executives from Fox who were around at that time. Apparently, you know how like Johnny Depp, when he was doing original Pirates, like all the executives didn't get what he was doing. They wanted to fire him. Have you heard about that? And like and basically the head of Disney stuck up for him and said, let him do it. And it ended up being this iconic role. Same thing for Alan Rickman. He wasn't doing the over the top, like, wah, kind of bad guy. The executives at Fox wanted to fire him. Oh yeah, and they were going to fire him. They thought he was doing terribly, and Bruce Willis basically went to bat for him and said, if you fire him, you're going to lose me. And they were already like a third of the way through production, and they kept him on. And it's, I would argue, alongside Hannibal Lecter, Darth Vader, maybe a couple of other villains in history, he's one of the greatest, if not the greatest, movie villain of all time.
And certainly the greatest action movie villain, for sure. Within that subgenre, for sure, I think. There's no argument there, yeah.
So what is it about Alan Rickman's performance that works so well for you? And, like, what is it about his character that, like, just works so well as an action movie
His
villain?
beard.
Yeah.
His beard.
I think the beard is like 99% of it, and that accent is definitely is that last.
His voice is, yeah, dude. I mean, his voice has such a nuance to his voice, and again, think about all of the movies. It's kind of like with The Godfather. How after The Godfather, everybody imitated The Godfather. So now you look at a mafia movie and it's a trope. But at the time, no one had ever done this super intelligent, suave, debonair, well-dressed, well-read, classical music listening villain like this. He was like the first guy to come along and actually make the villain someone that you would want to be.
Yeah.
It was pretty interesting.
I the only other person I guess would be like really obsessed with gold, that would like kind of carry on to Austin Powers 3, like Goldfinger and stuff like that. Like you would have like smart, sophisticated villains, but like you said, like the cartooniness to it, but they'll be like, but there's just this little weird thing. He really loves poodles. And you're just like, all right. But like with Hans Gruber, it's all real. It's all kind of genuine. And he is just kind of like that, kind of not over the top. Like I said, like he was acting in a way where everybody was like, what is he doing? He's changing things and I don't like it. What is this relatable villain that's completely normal? Not on my watch. Where, yeah, I think that he just owns it. I love Hans Gruber in this. I when I was watching it, I didn't realize how amazing this movie was. I just thought it was like, honestly, like I'm not the biggest fan of 80s movies, as I've said multiple times on this podcast. I don't really like 80s movies.
What?
I know.
What is the lie? Why are you not that's such a weird. Anyway, we'll go back to that. But I wanted to bring up one thing about Hans Gruber, which I think is really great, is that he's always makes good on his threat. Like when Joe Takagi's refusing to give him the codes, he's like, well, I guess you're gonna have to kill me, and he just straight up shoot him in the face in cold blood. And what I love about that scene is that they set it up to where John McClane is about to rescue him. Like he's in the same room, and it looks like he's gonna save the day at the last moment, and then Hans Gruber just shoots him in cold blood.
Yeah,
and even like John McClane, he's like, why didn't you save him? What's wrong with you? Well, he had this whole like dialogue with himself. And so, seeing as how we have such a strong villain, Hans Gruber, what makes John McClane work so well as a foil for Hans Gruber?
I was gonna say, go ahead, Vito.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Like for me, I feel because it's the dichotomy between the suave, sophisticated super genius and the everyman who comes along and he's just like he it's almost like if Bill Murray got thrown into an action situation and he was like, he's cocky, he's kind of he's not the smartest guy on the planet, but damn it, he never gives up, he never stops, and he's damn well determined to save the day no matter what. He has a goal and he doesn't stop. And Gruber also has a goal. And so you get this like immovable object and this, unbeatable force, and they're coming together. They're complete polar opposites. It's like the Joker and Batman. You know what I mean? The Joker's like this garish, some would say hilarious. I've never found him funny, but he's like, he's over the top and kind of humorous. Batman is dark and grim. And so that combination is like peanut butter and chocolate. You have like they're like the Reese's peanut butter cup of action star and villain. You know what I mean? Like they complement each other so well because they're so different.
Yeah, and that's pretty much exactly what I was going to say, because what you have, and I think it's a credit to two things, right? You have great writing setting these characters up and great execution in the performance. It's such perfect casting, the perfect people. Like, we talked about that. Like, who, like Hans Gruber, or not Hans Gruber, Alan Rickman. He was a risk in the sense, just because not necessarily what he's doing with the performance, because who is this guy? Bruce Willis was a risk because this guy's a TV star, and this is the olden days where you didn't go from TV to movies like you do now. Now it's just whatever medium, streaming, this, that, you go back and forth every which direction. It's not a big deal. TV was definitely a lesser medium at the time. So it was like, oh, he's maybe beneath us, and, it diminishes our movie just having him in it. But you have these two performances with that structure of the story of these two characters who are like Vito just said, are just so like exact opposites, but relentlessly pursuing what they're after. Right. It's just so, and it's so great because I was rewatching this movie. I was just kind of like thinking about it in terms of structure. In the first 20 minutes, it takes almost exactly 20 minutes for the action to start. That's when the terrorists come in and boom, things kick off. But that first 20 minutes is really, really brisk because you get so much character stuff set up and it just moves along. You get right away, you're on the airplane with Bruce Willis talking to the guy with the shoes, and just the way he reacts, and even the way the pretty stewardess looks at him, and there's a little look. So there's all this dynamic that building. It's like, oh, is his eye wandering? And then you notice, oh, he's trying to work on the marriage, but he's really like, as it grows and grows and grows in the story. And the great thing is, you get all this stuff built in, and it doesn't dwell on that. It's just there. And I think, and then Bruce Willis does such a great job of carrying it throughout that it's just the opposite of Alan Rickman's character, right? Who has it all together. And Bruce Willis and John McClane just absolutely does not. Like, he doesn't even know where he's staying. Like, I love the part, and this is a very LA thing, where they mention, oh, where are you going to stay? He's like, oh, there's a retired captain that lives in Pomona, and they're in Century City. And that's a haul. Like, I remember my wife and I would go to a lot of concerts and be like, oh, it's in Pomona. We're like, yeah, let's not go there. Pass. Yeah. So that's a drive.
That's an interesting point that you bring up, is that Hans Gruber, like throughout the whole movie, he never loses his composure. Like he's always like very, has a suit and all, and like there's no, he doesn't even look like he's like sweating or anything like that. But man, John McClane is just bringing through the ringer. Like, he's bleeding, his feet are like bleeding and cut up from glass, and he's just like a hot mess by the end of that movie. And one thing that I really you bring up an interesting point with the making fists with toes. I really like that scene a lot because he's at the in that office, like her office, and he's making fists with his toes, and he's barefoot, and then the terrorist attack happens, and so he's kind of caught off guard, and he's barefoot, and they actually do really pay that off really well with in the office building with the glass. And it's like little nuances, little details like that are just like they really touch upon it, and it pays off so well within the context of the story. And even something as simple as like when Holly takes the frame picture of John and the family and sets it down, so that the whole movie Hans doesn't even see it. And then when he sees that news broadcast, he like flips over. And he's like, and he makes a connection. Oh, that's John McClane's wife, and it really ramps up the tension. So I love how this movie takes like small details like this, like little nuances, and really uses it to like elevate the story and really make it like just so much better. What were you gonna say, Tyler? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
I was actually gonna make a joke about the clenching of the fist, or a fist. What does he say? Fist your foot, or something like that.
Fist with toe.
Yeah, fist your toes. I was just gonna make a joke about that earlier, but I kind of want to go off on that. It was like, what a great time to fight with your wife. Isn't that movie right before that movie? I'm joking. I'm sorry. That was a terrible joke. No. What I wanted to say before, but yeah, about Hans Gruber is that I, yeah, I love how serious he is and and how determined he is. Where John McClane, kind of like what you were saying, he's kind of making jokes, but he's also like, he's aged. He's dealt with not stuff exactly like this, but he's dealt with some shit being on the force, and so this is just kind of like, he's making one-liners, saying, talking about, Roy Rogers to, to a terrorist, and then going back and forth with literally one of the greatest bromances I've ever seen, and via walkie-talkie, and
Oh yeah.
It's so good. It's so good. John McClane is such a good hero because he is finally one that's just kind of goofy, and he's just like, this shit again. Like, he just kind of like, you get this kind of I don't know.
I think he's such an effective hero because he's very different than a lot of the '80s action stars at the time. Like, in Schwarzenegger, Commando, and Rambo, and it almost seems like they're like bulletproof. But John McClane, like, he gets shot in the shoulder, and he gets like he's limping because his feet are cut up by the glass, and he's just like, there's many times where they almost catch him, like they when he's in the vents and he has the he's using the strap on the machine gun to like jump over in the elevator shaft, and then he like hangs on there, and he's like crawling with that small space, and he has the lighter, and I see the lighter until the Germans, they come over and they're like poking at the air conditioning,
in the
shooting it up.
vents.
Yeah. And like after he shoots too. That's like after he lights it up with his machine gun.
Yeah.
And then and he's waiting in the crate of this thing's like is John McClane's like just waiting to load his clip. Because even though he's also like ready to like, if he needs to like unload on these guys, but he's like knows he has to wait till like the last possible second to do it in that moment. Like, and it's so tense. And still, I've seen it, I don't know how many times, but it's still like, there's so many moments in these movies. I've seen it dozens and dozens of times, but it's like the tension is like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
The pacing is
absolutely
so effective.
One of the things. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, what I would always say is, I've seen this movie like dozens of times, but I really feel like John McClane is in jeopardy, that they might actually catch him, and that he's like. So it's an interesting thing to know exactly what's going to happen in the movie, but you still like really are concerned for the hero, and you kind of believe that he could fail or that he could die. And a lot of that has to do with like because he is the everyman, he is just a cop against these like insurmountable odds. So
and that falls away. That's the thing that I hate as the sequels progress. I always make the joke that John McClane is the Rodney Dangerfield of action heroes, because he doesn't get no respect. Like, he saves hundreds of people at Nakatomi Plaza, and a year later, when his wife is in danger, they're all like, this asshole cop wants to come in here and tell us what to do at our airport. And he saves everybody at the airport. All right. He saves like 5 planes worth of people and everyone at the airport. He's back in New York. He's an alcoholic. None of his family likes him. Holly left him. His kids hate him. His fellow cops are like, that fucking alcoholic dickhead. He's useless, John McClane. He saved New York City. By the 4th movie, his daughter's still not talking to him, but he saves America. And then he goes and he saves Russia, and his son hates him. Nobody likes this guy. Like, what does it take for this man to get some fucking respect?
Yeah.
It's sad, but he also becomes a superhero as they go on. It's funny because I read a review where they said in the first movie, glass is like his downfall, and in the 5th movie he falls through like 6 sheets of glass and he's fine.
Oh, I remember that.
It's like his glass was his kryptonite, and then he's a superhero.
Yeah, he has no cuts whatsoever. He falls through levels of glass, no cuts, nothing. And then what was it? The 4th
so
one?
Bad.
He, like, jumps out of a helicopter and then slides down like some concrete blocks or something while the explosion's behind him. Like it's just like
he jumps off of a plane that's like.
What were you saying, Tyler?
Oh, I was gonna say I heard that the next movie is gonna be him saving the moon base, but his grandma can't stand him, won't bake him any bread.
Although I will say right now though, right?
My goodness.
That Die Hard commercial for the Die Hard batteries with him in it is pretty great. Because when I was a kid,
I'm sorry,
but when I was a kid, I actually thought that they called the Die Hard batteries that because of the Die Hard movies. When I saw that there were batteries called Die Hard, I was like, "Oh my god!"
I didn't know there were batteries called Die Hard.
Yeah, it's a car. It's a brand of car battery.
Oh, okay.
They were started by Sears, but Sears it was like an exclusive Sears, item, and now it's like on its own since Sears went out of business. But it's really funny.
Yeah, with a name like Die Hard, it has to be good.
That's right.
The first one, but subsequent batteries are not nearly as good. The third one's okay.
I've never seen the sequels. I've not seen one sequel. I've never seen the Lethal Weapon sequels. I've never seen Die Hard sequels.
You don't need to.
Yeah, that's true.
You could watch 2 and 3. You watch. My headcanon for stuff is like you can watch the Star Wars the original trilogy and you can forget everything else. And then my headcanon for Die Hard is the first 3, and then 4 and 5 are like a fever dream. And for Lethal Weapon, you can watch the first 2, and after that, it's crap. So they have their like limits where they stop being good.
Well, he's in
Joe Pesci's amazing.
He's in the second one.
He's in the second.
Oh, okay. I feel like Joe Pesci should have been in like all those movies where he's just always in a sequel. It's the same character though, and he just like
be amazing.
They could have had a shared universe, a Pesciverse. Okay, they could have had a Pesciverse, and they failed. And then it ends with Home Alone. It ends with his character being like, "I'm gonna go rob this little fucking shit. Get it, Harry, get over here. I'm tired of working with cops. We're gonna go steal this kid's shit. I'm done. Sorry.
What's a kid gonna do? Huh?
You want to talk a shared universe? Did you guys know
that's the wrong Christmas movie, guys?
Oh God, dude! I have a fantasy that all movies take place in the same universe, but there is a movie tie-in. Believe it or not, there was a film called Ricochet with Denzel Washington and the character of Gail Wallens, who is the news reporter, is in both movies, and it's her in both films as that character. So Ricochet and Die Hard are in the same universe.
I always thought that Family Matters and Die Hard were the same universe because, like, Reginald Bell Johnson would
be amazing.
And, like, I always thought that because the beginning of Family Matters was, like, him returning home. So I always thought it was him returning home from, like, the Nakatomi Plaza incident. And then he had to deal with, like, Steve Urkel.
He's like, I shot a kid, and it wasn't Urkel? How was the kid?
I was going to say, what if it was a prequel? What if it was a prequel and it was Urkel that he
shot? The end of Family Matters, the final episode we never saw.
It's him accidentally shooting Urkel.
Yes, Family Matters comes first. Boom! My mind is blown.
Prequel to Die Hard.
Yeah, he just after 10 seasons, he just couldn't stand Urkel anymore. Just blew him away.
You guys,
I thought somebody who worked on the show confirmed that it like. Or no, actually, I think it was just an internet thing. But yeah, that was the whole thing. Like on the internet, like everybody was like, "No, it has to be the same character. Like that would be amazing." Like,
well, I mean, they do have different names and live in different cities.
Yeah, it's not.
What if at the end of Family Matters, he accidentally shoots Urkel, and the final scene is him being called in to the captain's office, and he's like, "We're busting you down to like foot patrol," and he's like, "Well, I guess I got to deal with it. I'm gonna go out and buy some Twinkies." And he leaves, and in the distance you see Nakatomi Plaza.
Ooh,
and it's the beginning of Die Hard.
Hey, I love it.
That would have been perfect.
I'd buy your screenplay. Let me tell you, hey, that'd be a good episode for your whatever your burn after pitching or pitching burn or whatever your show.
Pitching burns.
A burning itching.
That's where
I love it. Reginald Bell Johnson and Die Hard and Family Matters.
Family Matters, Die Hard.
Oh yeah, there you go. There you go.
Can we talk about all the supporting cast in this movie? Because like,
so I actually wanted to bring up. So I actually did want to bring up Reginald Johnson's like his relationship with John McClane. The interesting thing is they actually didn't meet each other till like the end of towards the end of production. How do you feel that relationship kind of enhanced um, the action in the movie? Like
they're more than the villains of the film aren't the main villains. If you really look at the other policemen in the film, they sort of act as villains because they're working against what McClane is doing, and so that causes a lot of tension. I love the idea that like the FBI comes in, they think that they're going to do the right thing, and they're walking into Gruber's trap, and so McClane. It's good that he has somebody on the outside who believes him because no one else does.
Not even like leading in. They were literally helping him out, like unknowing, but like they literally were about to let Hans and them get away.
Yeah, and Hans, that's a great thing. And Hans is like super evil genius that he knew that. But kind of getting back to like what Paul's question is, I think it for me, like it gives an insight. It's great because you can get some expositional things in there that you need for the movie to move forward, but in a way that really enhances character. And that's when it's really great writing, where you have something that here's necessary information about the FBI showed up, that to make sure John McClane knows that. You get these things in there, but in a way that it's like very telling for the character and their relationships. And it's cool, like, how he's figuring out that he is a cop without him saying it, because he's like, this is a party line and all these different things, and the way they're communicating. It's like, and again, it's really great writing. I made fun of Steven D'Souza for like Street Fighter, but he and Jeb Stewart on this like nailed it with it's just some brilliant writing. And the best of the writing is in their dialogue with each other, because again, it covers the sort of exposition plus just so much character comes out.
Oh man, he also
and it's like the relationship between the two of them. As you see that relationship grow, it raises the stakes for John McClane. Like, you want him to survive so that he could actually meet Al Powell. Like that, because they form this friendship. It makes it raises the stakes and makes it seem like like there's more of a chance that he might die, like he might not make it to have that meeting between the two of them. So in a way, that relationship, it helps John McClane grow as a character, and they both grow as a character, but it also makes it raises up those stakes and ranks up that tension, because you definitely, like, through the course of the movie, you want them to meet each other, and you want to see like a conclusion, or like the meeting between the two of them. And so
like a resolution, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. You want to see a resolution between the two of them. You want to see that they actually get to meet each other, and that friendship can blossom from this incident. And so I think that's like that relationship between the two of them is so great, and it really like adds to the story.
It'd be funny if they never talk to each other again afterwards. Oh, it was nice meeting you. See you later. Bye.
I know.
Merry Christmas.
I know, right? They don't exchange Instagram accounts or whatever.
It's like Speed 2, how like Sandra Bullock's in it, and it's like a different guy because like Keanu Reeves didn't want to do it. It's like, like either people in tense situations either like love each other forever or hate each other, and they obviously it didn't work out.
I mean, Keanu Reeves missed out. I mean, he could have been on a cruise ship with Willem Dafoe.
Jan de Bont, right?
Bathing in leeches. Yeah. I mean, what a loss,
What
and Jan de Bont, I didn't mention Jan de Bont in the creative crew, by the way, who shot this movie and himself went on to make some great action movies as well, and some really bad ones too.
What were you going to say, Vito?
I was going to say it would almost make me want to write a short film, because I'm sure Reginald Vell Johnson's available. I don't mean that as a negative, but like it would be hilarious to have him calling McClane, "Hey, you want to get the family together for Christmas?" Whatever. You just have him on the other end, just like blowing him off.
Yeah,
I just think it's hilarious because you become friends in these intense situations, and once the intense situation's over, there's like nothing there anymore. And so it's him going, "Hey, John, I was just I drove past Nakatomi Plaza tonight, and I was just thinking of you." And he's like, "Yeah, I have some stuff I got to do," and just blowing poor Al Powell off for the rest of his life. Like, that was the most exciting night he's ever had.
I mean,
I wanted to add an addendum to.
I kind of want to add on to that. I would actually rather have the short film of them hanging out right afterwards, and then Powell says like, like not even a very negative thing at all. Like he's like they're having a barbecue and he's like, "Oh, hey, the meat's really really good. Do you have any more? Do you have any more spices?" And he's just like, "Oh, not enough spices. Did I not spice it up for you enough?" And then they just fucking hate each other, and then that's what leads on to John McClane just like just being.
They can have like shawarma together, like after the Avengers.
Yeah, and it's like the smallest thing sets off, and they just hate each other forever.
Oh yeah, there you go.
LA, it's very late at night. I hope they went to like Tommy Burger or something like that.
Yeah.
Go to Cantor's Deli, something like that.
Burger.
Some of the late night haunts in LA that you got to do. Like maybe Factor's Deli is also a good one. But
if I was
definitely he wouldn't why he wouldn't be his friend, because he lives in Pomona. Wouldn't drive out there.
I'm thinking about somebody who was at the party. I'm trying to think of somebody who was at the party where I would go after a terrorist, like terrorist hostage and stuff like that. I would go to the place that just doesn't sound like good at all. Like it sounds like, okay, I'm gonna get a heart attack after this meal, but after the shit I just went through, totally worth it. So if I was a guest at that party, I would be going to Fat Burger, or just a name that sounds like it shouldn't be food, but it is, because you just escaped death. I'm just saying.
That's Tommy Burger. If you've ever had the original Tommy Burger, like in the heart of Los Angeles on Rampart, it's a risk and a glorious experience. It's a horrible and a glorious one all at once.
Glory.
They're delicious. I hardly even eat meat, and I love eating Tommy's burgers.
That's it. The next sequel of Die Hard, we'll write the script all together. It's going to be John McClane is stuck at a Tommy Burger. Yeah.
But at the Tommy Burger. I'm talking about the original Tommy Burger.
The Tommy Burger. Yes. A terrorist has a gun point at him. He has to eat 30 hamburgers in less than an hour, or else he doesn't win a t-shirt.
Where it's like outdoor, walk up, there's only the counter that you like lean on, and it's all like outside. You're
got to be a Gruber offshoot too. It's got to be like another Gruber that you haven't heard of.
Yeah, like how Willem Dafoe.
Are going to eat the sandwich.
What other
We're going to finish the sandwich, McClane.
What other British actor can do a German accent?
His third cousin twice removed comes in.
It's kind of like how I'm related to Shane Black.
Oh God.
I think that's awesome. He's like the holy grail of screenwriters for me. Before I'm not obviously we're not at the end of this, but before we go, remind me to tell you what Die Hard 5 was going to be, or Die Hard 6. And I think you guys will be like blown away by it, because it was amazing. And then they decided to do young John McClane, and now they cut it all together now that Disney bought it. But
wait till the end.
I wanted to say, what's that?
I was saying, wait till the end for that. That was a little tease.
That's right. It's a tease. I did want to say, at that screening that I went to, Reginald Vell Johnson, I did approach him. And unlike Steven D'Souza, Vell Johnson was awesome. And he basically, I told him, I said, that relationship that you guys create on screen is so amazing that by the end, when you guys meet each other, the relief and the love that you show to Bruce Willis is really amazing. And I swear to God, Reginald Vell Johnson got tears in his eyes, and he was like,
"Oh, that's amazing.
Thanks, man." And gave me a big hug. He's amazing. Vell Johnson was awesome.
You experienced that exact moment that they experienced.
You were like, I've been waiting for you this whole time.
Except I didn't have, the gorgeous Bonnie Bedelia on my arm, unfortunately.
Other than that, that's one small detail.
But you had an amazing beard, so.
I'm wondering,
right.
The amazing thing about this movie is that there's a lot of great kills. Like John McClane has a lot of great kills in it. And I know this is kind of because you're all talking about friendship and I'm like, oh, what are John McClane's best kills? So
it's
about friendship and rainbows and unicorns.
Kind of turning it around a little bit, but what's your favorite kill in this movie? Like,
can I go first?
Go ahead.
I think it's more about like me giving major props to the stuntman. Do y'all remember the guy who's running and John McClane is shooting at his legs and its leg is being dangled, and then he like clearly gets killed when he goes into the glass, and like I don't know if that stuntman's okay. I don't know if any stuntman got.
Oh yeah.
That's your favorite kill?
He was killed during the making of this movie.
No, I'm saying even if it's fake glass, even if it is breakable, fake production glass. There's no way that he did not hurt his neck in that. So I think it's my favorite kill because holy shit, that stunt work. Because almost everything else was, I mean, it didn't really have that much. I mean, dude, like the guy trips, almost hits a desk, and then breaks glass, and then like hits his neck. Clearly hits the other production glass and goes like that. Like that's like in full force fall. Holy shit! And also, you see his like get like just absolutely completely destroyed too. So to me,
no, that shot. Also, I'll say this: watching it again, that shot when like they show his like kneecaps and legs getting blown out. I'm like, whoa, am I watching RoboCop? Because there's a blood in this movie, but all of a sudden it's like really graphic. Yeah, like that surprised me. Like rewatching it, like last night, I was like, whoa, I don't remember that being so graphic. That part of that.
Yeah.
Don't forget, guys, in the 80s, you used to be able to show full on like female breasts in PG films up until a certain point. And then because so in the 80s they just didn't give a shit.
This one, there's a brief scene where when the terrorists are like pulling
at the beginning
people out of the rooms, and there's like this couple that are like making out or whatever the party. Yeah, it's like very brief, but yeah, Vito, what is your favorite kill?
As cliched as it is, I would have to say it's Hans Gruber, because I've always marveled as a writer, and I'm sure everyone here as writers, agree. Like, again, the screenplay is so meticulously put together that you have this moment. I forgot. I've seen this movie like 70 times. I can't remember the name of the guy. Hans Booby. We're friends, right?
Ellis,
like
Ellis,
that guy. I forgot his name.
Ellis.
Ellis.
Oh, Ellis.
So
oh,
I love that. Like,
I want him to die.
Dude, that throwaway line where he's like, "It's a Rolex," and he's trying to be all cool, and Holly kind of blows it off. But this watch is the symbol of her like selling out and leaving John and kind of like pushing him to the side. And at the end of the movie, it literally decides Hans Gruber's fate. He's hanging by the damn Rolex, and she cuts it and drops him. And it's like she's letting go of the job and letting go of all that shit and coming back to John. The symbolism of that is amazing. And I also love the fact,
I completely
Tyler,
forgot
you were
about
talking
that.
about and you were talking about the effect or the stuntman. Why am I forgetting his name? Rickman. He really did that drop. He dropped like 30 or 40 feet.
Yeah.
And when they were preparing that shot, they didn't tell him. They said, "We're going to drop you on 3," and they did it on 1. So the look on his face when he goes, "Ooh," as he falls back is real. It's amazing. And they only got it in 1 shot because he refused to do it again after that. But that to me is just a great kill.
I don't blame him.
Going back to the thing with the watch. So again, I didn't read the book. I read about the book, but that in the book, it's the daughter, and she is actually in this, like in the shadiness with Nakatomi. She's kind of a bad guy herself, and she actually falls off with him, refusing to let go of the watch. It's like the flip in the character, how the book was different, where it's like, what the meaning of it's cool how they use the same device in a different way symbolically. Where it's like, is she attached to this, or is she attached to, her family, essentially? But my favorite kill is Carl. And because, first of all, you think he's dead, and he's not dead. And then Officer Powell, Reginald Val Johnson, gets that moment at the end where, when you think everything's wrapped up with a bow. And this is, before, that's a cliche now, but it wasn't a cliche then when that guy would come back like that. Now we see it all the time. But at the time, you're like, oh, he's back. And then he just, everyone freaks out, and who's the man of action?
I agree and disagree, because we also had Jaws and James Bond movies that would like fall 700 feet in the ground, and then he'd be in the next scene, like making out with a blonde. I'm just kidding. He doesn't make out with her, but I don't know if you guys remember that from Moonraker, but Jesus Christ. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that's kind of cliche for some henchmen to just like magically come back out of nowhere. I think
it's still very unexpected though in this movie.
True. No, yes, in this movie, absolutely. But yeah. Oh,
and it is called Die Hard, so maybe it's not about John McClane being the one to die hard.
Yeah.
I wanted to. Sorry, Paul. I wanted to say I did read the book after the movie came out, and they're not terrorists in the book. They're sort of like what would you call it? They're like super protesters. I'm trying to think of like the way to, like, they're basically protesting the bank, like, and its dealings and stuff like that, but they've broken in. The most brutal kill in the book, it's totally crazy. Leland is in the stairwell and he hears someone running up the stairs. He breaks the glass, grabs this axe and swings it. Right as the person comes around and it gets the person right in the face, he realizes it's like this 17-year-old girl. He just right down the middle of her head and she just falls dead. And he's like, oh my God, I just killed a young girl. And so in the book, the deaths and the killings are way more personal and horrific because he's just like, you know, and he wrestles with that for the rest of the book, that he killed this girl who, you know, she's wearing like, you know, the Fidel Castro cap and she's running with a gun and he just like axed her right in the face. It's really brutal.
I'm glad we didn't see that, but also though, I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like all the henchmen all had complete, like, you know, personalities and stuff. Like the one science guy was amazing. I loved that guy. It was so cool. Anyways, Paul, what did you want to say?
Oh, so I have to say my favorite kill is it's one of the, I think it's the first one, and it's the blonde-haired terrorist. I think he's Carl's brother. I forgot the name, but he has like sweatpants, like sweatshirt and everything, and he's so they're fighting. Yeah, the glasses,
and they set him up real quick. Yeah, they set him up as like the ultimate dude right away. Like he does the thing where he slides down the stairs and he cuts the phone lines and stuff. He does all this cool stuff right away. Like so go ahead, Paul. Like the way they set him up, like, oh, this dude's hardcore.
The wires, and he's like trying to fix it real quick before he does it. But yeah, I thought that was cool. Like, you know, like John McClane hears the elevator bell, and he comes over and he's like, "I'm not going to hurt you," and then he automatically shoots where he thinks John McClane is, and then like John, like he lures him in with that saw, and they start fighting, and then you know, it's a pretty brutal fight. It's a very visceral fight for like an action movie. And
choreography in this movie is actually really well done. Like all the fist, all the fist fight choreography is for all of it.
What I love, so what's really cool is like I like how they're at the staircase and he falls over and somehow snaps his neck. Like it seems kind of like odd. You just hear like a grunting, like. Argh! Then he looks over at him and he sees his fake ID, and then he goes and he like puts him in the elevator with the sweatshirt saying, "Now I have a machine gun, ho ho ho," and he like hides on top, and you know they open up the elevator doors open up. Holy shit! Who's this? Like, oh, he got, you know, like. Now I have a machine, and Hans is like, "Hey, Carl, tell Carl," and but I love that particular kill because it's like kind of like the first engagement with the terrorists, but it also shows how clever John is that he's figuring out like how many different terrorists, how many people he's engaging with, and he's like, you know, he's doing investigative work. Like, what am I dealing with? Like, how many terrorists am I dealing with? Like, what am, like, what, you know, like he's trying to size up the problem. And so I love that particular one specifically because it's like, it's such a neat, iconic moment with the, now I have a machine gun, ho ho. But it shows just how, like clever John McClane is, like that, you know, this is the hero to root for because of, he's clever and it just works so well within the context of the story. So that's my favorite kill.
And it also, Paul, it also is cool because it also does a lot to show the character of Hans Gruber because it doesn't phase him. He's just like he's like, do this, do this. Yeah. He like, you know, here's this absolute wild card that Hans Gruber, who planned for everything, couldn't have planned for. But now he's like, okay, this is what we do. You do this. Figure out if there's more than one of him. Figure out if he's lying about like having even killed, like, you know, killed the other people. You know, figured out if he really has the gun. All that, like, it's so cool to see. And he's like, Hans Gruber does not lose his cool at all. So it's cool how like that moment shows you both characters so well in such a unique, iconic way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
Tyler,
that.
you had brought up the fact that you thought all of the side characters were really amazing. One of the reasons why that happened was because Willis was, while they were shooting Die Hard, he was actually also shooting scenes while Sybil Shepherd was away with her pregnancy. He was shooting Moonlighting during the day and Die Hard at night. And he was so exhausted that Stephen D'Souza and Jeb Stewart had to come up with ways to enhance the movie. So they decided on something that Quentin Tarantino does now, which is even the side characters, when they show up, they do something interesting, and they're like they're the center of the movie when they're on screen. When you see those FBI guys, you could see those guys in their own movie.
Yeah.
When you see those cops, you could see those cops in their own movie. And so they treat all of the side characters like their main characters. And so everyone is well fleshed out. You really believe that that's a real world because those people have real personalities. And they're all different, and they all have different goals, and they're all working against each other. And the movie just beautifully tumbles it all together to its inevitable conclusion. It's really amazingly well done.
Like that one henchman who was there like with the concession stand, and he grabs a Crunch Bar, and you're like, wow, I really hate this guy. He completely passed up a Reese's that was sitting right there. This guy needs to die.
I'm with that guy. Go Crunch Bar. Go Crunch Bar. Team Crunch Bar.
That actor is
Hashtag
Ali Wong.
Team Crunch
He
Bar.
was actually in Bill and Ted. He was Genghis Khan in Bill and Ted. Then he's also in
that's amazing.
Ninja Turtles and like some different movies.
I love that man.
But dude, he's considered to be like the 80s henchman. He was also in Big Trouble in Little China. He's been in almost every major 80s action film as a henchman.
That's awesome. Good for him, man. It's a good.
I even like that one moment right before where there's a SWAT team guy and he like pricks his arm on roses and he's like, ah, shit. Like,
right before getting gunned down at the front door.
If only he'd had focus, he wouldn't have been shot. He was too busy wondering if he was going to get that stain of blood out.
Yeah, right.
He's like, I need ointment. I need an antiseptic. Does anybody have any aloe vera? And then boom, machine gun fire in his skull.
Is it weird that I liked the FBI's death more than I did the henchmen? Like all of them. Like what's that one thing? Because that FBI guys are such dicks. Oh my
Agent
God.
Johnson and Johnson, not related.
Yeah. Oh my God.
God, that scene is so great, dude.
Yeah.
But then they're flying, in the helicopter.
Yeah, one of them is like, he's like, oh, this reminds me of Saigon. And the other's like, man, I was only in junior high school, dickhead. Like, what are you talking
about?
Their relationship.
It's like,
yeah. Dude, but you get the sense that those guys have known each other for years, that they've worked together, and that they're just like, they would be the leads in a different movie. Like those two would be going off and having like Lethal Weapon adventures. That's the prequel too. We could keep writing the prequels.
I'd rather write a
one of the really crazy things. Dude, I would love to do something Die Hard related, but I feel the franchise is kind of ruined at this point. But did you guys know that most of the explosions and stuff were practical as well? Like, I have a buddy who was driving down Olympic Boulevard and saw the top of the Sony building explode and thought that LA was under attack. Like, he saw them, he had no idea there was a movie being shot, and he watched the explosion come out of the building and was like, holy shit, and rushed home because he thought his family was in danger. It was really crazy. But they did almost all the explosions practically and in the building.
Oh shit!
And
I
that had to have been amazing.
Oh, I thought they used for some reason. I thought they used miniatures for
it.
For
the top of the building, for the top of the helicopter,
they
that
did,
was a miniature.
But
the other stuff was...
there's a shot of the building from across the city where you see an explosion, and that was a real shot.
Jesus Christ!
And they were able to like do that stuff because the building was still actually under construction. So like it was Fox's offices, and there was still a lot of it was under construction. So they were able to just wreck it because it wasn't anything yet anyway. You know, as long as they didn't obviously damage the structure. But they were able to like light it on fire safely.
That's cool, but damn, like Jesus.
Yeah. Well, you couldn't get away with that now.
Oh, absolutely not. No, not even The Rock.
So,
you don't need to now, unfortunately. You can do it, it's just too easy to do things today.
That's true. What's that, Paul?
So, actually, one thing I wanted to bring up is the scene where Hans is like up in he's up by the roof and he's like checking on the detonators and the C4, and he gets caught by John McClane, and there's this whole exchange between the two of them, and at the he does a really good American accent where he's like, "Oh no, Bill Clay, don't I just wandered away from the terrorists, and don't shoot me."
The Bill Clay thing is so smart. Sorry.
There's there's this really tense scene between the two of them. And so one thing that I never really understood was what gave him away. What gave Hans Gruber away, in your opinion?
Oh, I didn't realize this at first until years later, and I've read all the trivia and all that stuff. Apparently, the way he accepts the cigarette is like a European way that they hold the cigarettes. That was what tips McClane off. I never realized that in the 70 times I've watched the movie, but apparently, and I skimmed through scenes today without watching the full movie, but I didn't catch that. But apparently, he accepts it. It's like the scene in Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah, Inglourious Basterds.
He does the 3.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah. And you also notice that that is when Gruber realizes that he doesn't have shoes, and it gives him an inspiration later to break the glass. Yep. So he wouldn't have known that, and
right.
that creates the tension of that scene later is like, shoot the glass.
We haven't talked about the great filmmaking here too, to visually set things up. You know what I mean? You're seeing that, and then that's great filmmaking. You see Gruber, you see what Gruber's seeing, and these subtle things that we don't talk about because it's so well done. It's just a really well made film. John McTiernan at his best. I love Predator so much. I really really love that movie.
I've never seen it.
Oh gosh. Well,
Tyler,
future episode of Popmosis Film.
Dude.
80 action movies.
Yeah, and you keep saying how you don't like 80s movies. It's because you haven't seen the good ones.
80s action movies. 80 action movies. I love
missed all the good ones.
I love Beverly Hills Cop. I know it's mostly a comedy, but yeah. But
Tyler, it's imagine the director of Die Hard doing what would have been a terrible B movie in anybody else's hands, and he elevates it to a masterful sci-fi classic about man surviving against the unkillable beast. It's amazing, dude. It's great.
I don't know. Paul, can I say one thing real quick?
But anyway, just to finish my thought real fast, is that the filmmaking though, the actual filmmaking, you have Jan de Bont and John McTiernan bringing together visually the narrative of the film to really create that juxtaposition. Because when you think about how John McClane is shot and how he looks compared to the terrorist, and how together they almost always seem to have it. They always have they're not all Hans Gruber, but they're always their shirts are tucked in. They're always together. Their hair is perfect. And John McClane, he's me. His hair isn't combed. He rolled out of bed, doesn't have his shoes on. But they bring that home visually too, where you really feel the wear and tear of him as well, to create that more than just John McClane's not wearing shoes. It's show us that, the whole show don't tell kind of thing in filmmaking. Go ahead, Tyler. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say I'm very critical on 80s action movies because I don't like the whole alpha male thing and the bulletproofness and everything. It's just I feel like so many of them are just the same film. Where this movie does not lack that because it's so smart. There are little things like me. I completely missed the Rolex thing earlier on, and I was watching this movie, not really doing anything else, which is hard for me to do usually because I have too much going on. Usually I'll do something else and pay attention every so often. But this movie, I loved it just at the beginning. This movie just grabs you, and this is one of those action movies where it's not really an action movie. There's a lot of other storytelling, a lot of intensity into it. But and then there's some action along the way.
Movie. It absolutely is an action movie. It just has a lot more depth and symbolism. And
I think
it's a lot
action movie
more clever.
True Lies is considered an action movie, where True Lies has maybe 10 scenes of action, but the rest of it's comedy and world building.
That's the frustrating thing is that because something is an action movie, people automatically assume that it's dumb. That there's it lacks depth or nuance. But if you have a great action movie and you add that depth and nuance, it really elevates it to something else entirely. And that's why we're still talking about it nowadays. It's still a classic. It's still an amazing movie. and it's like it's timeless because of all these like little nuances, like the symbolism with the Rolex. Like that's an amazing thing. Like how she's letting go of her selling out and her life that basically what Hans Gruber represents. And that's what gives so much like yeah, that's why this Die Hard works so well, and I think it's like one of the most imitated movies ever. There's like Air Force One, Under Siege, White House Down. Like there's so many different movies that try to like replicate this movie in particular,
and half of them are Die Hard movies.
Yeah, half of them are Die Hard movies.
Sadly,
they tried to capture this lightning in a bottle effect that Die Hard had, but just hasn't been able to do it.
I would argue. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I would argue that, as Josiah pointed out, it's the quality of the craft of filmmaking. It's the idea, like when Nirvana came out, right? Nirvana was this amazing, groundbreaking band, and they cited their influences being the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and the Germs, and they had this wide amount of people that they were drawing their musical talent from. And then all of the people who imitated Nirvana just tried to sound like Nirvana. They weren't trying to create a sound. Nirvana they had a real sound because they were really writing songs that came from somewhere. And the imitators are just trying to sound like Nirvana. And, John McTiernan came from a classical filmmaking background. Anybody who is listening to this podcast who loves Die Hard, if you haven't listened to the director's commentary for the first and third movies, they're amazing, filmmaking schools in and of themselves. McTiernan talks about how he taught himself how to shoot scenes by watching Ingmar Bergman films without the sound on, because he realized if you can't, he basically said, he challenges you, if you turn off the sound of Die Hard and you've never seen the movie before, you should be able to know just visually what is happening without any of the dialogue, and you can, because I've done it. The other thing that's really amazing about that movie is that McTiernan talked about most action directors don't establish a sense of place and a sense of space in which the movie is going to take place in. And so most of them, you can't tell visually what's going on. But in Die Hard, he sets up the building. Then you go into the building. He sets up the lobby. He sets up how the elevators are. He sets up where the party is in relation to where the terrorists are, to where John McClane is. He sets up that every time John McClane runs through a certain room, he kisses and touches the centerfold, right? And the centerfold is like, she's the middle of the building, literally. And it's how he knows how to get around. When he sees the centerfold, he gets his bearings. And the terrorists have an idea, but he has acclimated himself. That's why he's able to survive. And so like the sense of space in the movie is amazing. And if you watch most action films today, most directors, they don't have story beats that they tell. It's in the script sometimes, but like they don't tell it the way McTiernan can tell it. That's what sets him apart.
Yeah,
I mean?
Exactly. Like you said, spending time with that space is really significant to then just to the story, but just following the action. You don't get confused because you're going to have a bazillion cuts. Even in the 80s, there were still a lot of cuts. Like when you see the first fight with Carl's brother and John, like that's there's like the obvious stunt doubles in there, but they're bashing through walls and all these things. It's a really real brutal fight, but you already have a good sense of that space. And then later on, when you come back to those spaces and revisit them again and again and again, it makes more and more sense. And then like for example, like you go to the rooftop before there's the payoff at the rooftop. So you get a sense of how the rooftop works in relation to, getting up and down in there, so like those kind of things, like really the visual storytelling, like you said, helps it pay off really strongly. And it's funny because it's one of those things where I was kind of watching it that way last night because I was like semi-distracted by the kids and stuff as I was like watching, and because my daughter was she's teething, she's like 1, so it's hard to get her to sleep. But I was like kind of like watching it with that more of that sense of just the visual cues without like all those amazing lines, welcome to the party, pal, and all that stuff. but just taking it in that sense, it's part of why it works. And even the sequels to Die Hard specifically are far lesser movies, as you don't have that sense of the geography of the space that is really brilliantly done. McTiernan does that really well, and which he does again in Predator. The geography makes you, especially towards the end of that, you know you know where you are in that jungle at that point, which is really important. Different podcast episode though.
And kind of adding to that is like it really ramps up the tension because you have an understanding of where John McClane is in relation to the terrorists coming after him. And so, you get to a point where it looks like they're going to trap him and then he gets out, or like, Al is called. And so, they go off and deal with that. But it's like you have each area has like, you have an understanding of where each of the characters are. And like, even like that one scene where, John is being chased by two of the terrorists, and then Carl's up on the roof slowly walking across the roof to get like his like sniper rifle to like flank him. You have an understanding of that's what's happening because you have a good idea of the geography of the whole complex. And then after that, like, he falls in the fan, and then he sees the the centerfold, and you like that whole, you just have an understanding of where everything is. And so I think by doing that, by taking the time to establish that geography, especially a lot of it he does right when the terrorists appear. Like he goes to the 32nd floor, he's like, oh, these are computers. He goes to the 33rd floor, oh, here's some construction, and then you go to 34th. Like he checks out all the different floors, and so you have a deep understanding of like how the building is, and like in a way it makes the building itself like a character of the story. So yeah, I just think it's very like, I think what a lot of directors forget to do is they forget to build up the geography and the understanding of where everything is, so that when things happen, you know exactly why the characters react in a certain way, or like why. So you have a better understanding of where the story's going and what's happening. So I just think it's like one of those like really interesting, like it's almost like a lost art to do stuff like that. And I think it's very important for action movies that they, continue to do this. So yeah, I mean, that's just my 2 cents on that. I think that's a great point you made about the, the geography of the movie. Anything you want to add, Tyler?
No, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I really, really, really am shocked as to how much I love this movie. It's funny how I have revisited a few different 80s movies, and because I'm because it's the 80s, but like this and RoboCop, I really do feel like are two movies that stand the test of time, that are so smart and so particular. It's just excellent storytelling, excellent characters, excellent acting, excellent cinematography, messages, and everything. They're just two movies that, like, if anybody was like, "Hey, what 80s movie should I watch?" I would be like, these two in Beverly Hills Cop, and and The Thing, or Blade Runner. Like, it would be like those would be like the 5 movies I would tell somebody to watch if they were like wanting an 80s fix. And I haven't seen this movie in so long, in like 18 years, and so definitely was completely different from what I remember. 'Cause I remember it was fun, but then I would get bored of the talky parts because I'm just like, I just want him to kill. I just want him to, to step on glass and to kill people and curse, because cursing's so cool.
So maybe you would like the sequels then.
I don't know if I would
all
like
the
the
action,
sequel.
none of the character or nuance.
Leans really heavy into
I-
yeah.
I will watch the sequels if
The
we
younger
do them
Tyler
on this
would like
show.
Yeah.
Honestly, Tyler,
I'll watch-
if you watch two is a decent but not a great sequel. But the third film is pretty much the same director and writing and stuff like that. So the first and third films are very satisfying. The rest of them are vary from like decent to so bad you want to kill John McClane yourself. The fifth movie is so bad that I watched it once and vowed to never watch it again. It's deplorable in every sense of the word. It's a pile of steaming shit inside of a bigger pile of steaming shit with corn in it.
I will say this:
It's terrible.
I love Justin. I love Justin.
I like how I added
Long.
corn in there just to spice it up.
You know,
even this movie can't digest corn. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
As we're closing up or closing down, is there anything you guys wanted to bring up about the movie?
It's like last call. Anybody? Last call for drinks.
You mean our final thoughts?
Well, it's
Yes.
I want to ask you a question about, but before we go to like final thoughts.
Got it.
Second
comments. Is there anything you want to bring up? Yeah, sort of like a last call.
What's that?
Is there anything you want to bring up?
I thought you.
No, I'm just asking.
I thought you were going to bring something else up.
I know it sounded like you were going to ask us the question. Like you're like, this is the one question I've been holding it all night. I've been prepared for this. I'm going to ask this. Okay, so what do you guys want to talk about? I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
I wanted to say something about the very end of the movie, but I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself for what you have to say last.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I'll say this. So my last thought was watching the movie again. The end, it's really cool because it's I already mentioned my favorite kill is Reginald getting his chance to shoot in Carl.
Can I change my answer to Ellis? Because I fucking hated that guy, and when he died, I was like, yeah. Yeah,
like a John McClane.
He's like, we're old friends. I was like,
I mean, John McClane kind of allowed him to die. You know,
I really had no choice though.
I know.
John McClane acted more upset than he really was over that one. I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been upset if I was John McClane. This motherfucker.
Ellis was kind of asking for it, you know.
Yo, 1,000%. Yeah,
he was a chump.
Wasn't
totally. And he's, you know what, Ellis actually reminds me a lot of.
But he was also kind of right in a way.
Of who?
Donald Trump Jr. He's very like that kind of personality.
Yeah.
Imagine that when Ellis got shot in the head, as his head flew back, like coke mist came out of his nose.
I know,
he was like constantly like snorting coke in the movie.
Oh yeah, the whole time
he's like the ultimate '80s cliche, and yeah.
Yeah, that's how you introduce him. He's in the office, and he has like it's all up on his nose, and Takagi's like, hey, he's a cop, you know, and then like. Yeah, that always cracks me up. But
I want to now say that Ellis's death though was done really well. Where like you hate the character, you fucking hate the character, and like you expect him to show the death, and when they actually do the cutaway and it goes to John McClane's really pissed off and like shocked face, it actually affects you a lot more than it would if they just showed him getting shot in the face. Like let's say like they got gory with the leg being shot, with a machine gun. If they had showed Ellis's death, I think definitely would not have affected me as much as it did when it went to John McClane and you got to see this humanity and this realistic reaction of a cop hearing the death of an innocent person.
No, you're spot on, and it's that the power of great filmmaking where most filmmakers wouldn't be smart enough to cut away from the shot there to John's reaction, which is way more powerful than seeing the guy get shot, because that moment isn't really about his death. It's about John trying to plead, don't do this, you're putting yourself at risk, don't do this. It's not about Ellis at all, as slimy and scumbaggy cokehead as he is. It's about John. And it stays about John. That's great filmmaking.
That moment is really a game of chess, and Ellis is the pawn in that, but he doesn't really matter.
He doesn't realize it.
Yeah, he thinks he's in
the horrible thing about that is,
he thinks he's
like you said, Vito. Though it's like
another.
I was gonna say real quick. He's like you said, Vito. He's another one of those guys who thinks he's the hero in his own movie.
But here's the crazy thing about this. And Tyler, you brought up a good point, is that this guy is very hateable, right? You hate him, but the moment he gets shot in the head, you're like, this dude was a douchebag, but did he deserve to get shot in the face? Like, that's the thing, is like, he's a human being, and the horror of the idea that you're like, 2 minutes ago, I was calling this dude an asshole, and now he's dead. you just feel that weird guilt.
You were asking me like, can you just kill this character? And then they do it, and you're like, oh fuck, I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
Murder's not as funny as I thought.
And that's another like thing that I love about Hans is like he always makes good on his threats. You know, he's a villain through and through. And so many action movies would, you know, they would be like, oh, well, he gets saved at the last moment or something. You know, but it's like every time, you know, he always makes good on his threats, and that's what makes him like such a great villain. So I want to close out with
before that though. I didn't actually say what my thing was.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. No, I know. Yeah, I apologize. While I have it in my head, but the thing that I loved is about the end of the movie. The actual conclusion of the film is, you know, it's this great romantic old Hollywood style moment where the couple's walking off, sort of, you know, the walk off into the sunset sort of moment, even though it's, you know, well after dark, and the paper's flying everywhere, like it's the snow, and it's, you know, that sort of this Christmassy scene. They're walking through, and then the moment where Powell and McClane meet, and, you know, they hug, and it's just this great sort of like old Hollywood moment where the resolution in the movie though is great. That's where Carl comes back. As I was watching it, I was like, oh yeah, this is where it reminds you this is an action movie. It's like all this character stuff is great. It makes it a better action movie, but this is still an action movie. So we got to end on this kind of note. And it's like, bam, and, you know, he gets shot. But that, like, the way that moment is all executed and built up, I just loved watching it again. So that was all I wanted to say. But
and that's such a great payoff with Al, and he's saying like how he shot a kid, and that's why he works at a desk. And so it paid off by him like killing Carl and saving John at the last moment. It's such I mean, this movie is just fucking fantastic.
It's one of the best tightly written scripts, I think, even though they were writing it as they were going along, but like everything has a payoff and it all makes sense. Like David Mamet once said, when you're writing a screenplay, it should end in a way that completely surprises you, but it should also be the only logical conclusion to the story, that A plus B has to equal C, but that C still surprises you. That's the trick of being a writer. And I think they pull that off in that screenplay so well. I don't think it's ever, as you guys were saying, there have been so many ripoffs. There's only one Die Hard. There's only one. It's practically a perfect movie. There are flaws in it, but like I can watch that, Pulp Fiction, Jaws. There are a couple other ones, The Godfather, where you're like, it's so good, I don't see anything bad about it. Like even the flaws are amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I love this movie.
So I want to close out with a simple question: is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Let me know your thoughts.
It was released in
Next
July.
Question.
I'm wearing a Christmas sweater. Yes, I'll tell you why watching it, and it's a short answer. They use Christmas music as part of the soundtrack and the score of the film. That's for me, like, yeah.
I think it's a Christmas movie because I've seen a lot of violent bullshit that's happened in Christmas movies, like Home Alone, Deck the Halls, Christmas and the Cranks. You see a lot of fucked up stuff in all these Christmas movies, and this movie still has the best message I've seen in any Christmas movie ever. This is a Christmas movie. This is the best Christmas movie. This is probably the Christmas movie with the most heart in it, and you get one of the best bromances of all time. And it kickstarted Bruce Willis's career. So take that, Christmas Story.
How about you, Vito? What do you think?
I'm definitely in the camp that Die Hard is a Christmas movie, and so is Gremlins. And I will go to the mat, you know, arguing for both of those movies that they take place during Christmas. I mean, look, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is considered a Thanksgiving movie. It ends on Thanksgiving, but it's considered a Thanksgiving movie. So why would Die Hard and Gremlins, which obviously feature Christmas imagery and music throughout, not be considered Christmas movies? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I agree. I believe Die Hard is a Christmas movie, and mainly the reason why I feel that way is that it's a man redeeming himself and getting his family back. You know, his like family was torn asunder, and you know they were kind of on the outs, because Holly took this job and he felt like it wasn't going to work out, and they rekindled their relationship and like became a family again. And that's a very like Christmas oriented theme, and in a way,
it's just a more violent It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, oh fuck, I was going to point that
how
out.
about that, Holly? Zuzu got on wings.
Yeah, it's very. I was going to make the connection actually, just like.
I didn't even think about it ahead. You made it for me, so it was purely you. You set it up.
McClane reaches into his pocket. Zuzu's bullets.
I'm like this, and I have on my back a poster of a VHS of It's a Wonderful Life, and I throw it at Paul's face. I don't know.
Yeah,
It was taped to my back.
To see that
with Christmas tape.
That's what I do with people with my Green Lantern poster. I'm like, take that, haha. Kidding.
So, guys, I did want to point something out that is relevant to the idea of this being a Christmas movie and the family coming together. This is something that I just learned this week, which is really amazing. So the subplot, as Josiah pointed out in the book, it was about his daughter, the estrangement. The thing that made Jeb Stewart turn it into his wife was that he was driving along the 101 one evening. There was a refrigerator truck in front of him, it actually had real refrigerators, like it was shipping them somewhere. And the back opened and a refrigerator box flew at his car. And in that moment, he realized he was about to die, and he and his wife had just had an argument before he left. And he was like, I'm going to die. And I never told her I was sorry. The box hit his car. It was empty. And he realized, I have to get home right now and apologize to my wife and never let us argue again. And that was what made him write the scene where McClane pulls glass out of his feet and apologizes to his wife. And then he went back and added the rest of the arguments with Holly and stuff like that. He back wrote it into the story. So we owe that to a real incident that happened where he almost died and realized that he needed to be better to his wife. That's pretty cool, right?
We need to go like wherever that was on like the 405 and put like a little plaque.
Right? It's like Final Destination.
It'd be amazing. On this spot, Jeb Stewart.
You get run over by like 45 semis trying to put it on the freeway, but still.
Right?
Well, they're going like 3 miles an hour. So
yeah. Before we go though, Vito, you teased us with a little bit of the Die Hard 5. What was this?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
well,
thank you for bringing that up. So
it would have been
Die Hard 6. I can't believe that they didn't buy this, but so there's a British screenwriter who wrote a screenplay called Old Habits Die Hard. The idea is that McClane is now this older, kind of broken. His body is like completely to the point where he's got like a replacement knee and he's just on the outs, and everything like that. He's still with Holly. Everything's kind of, winding down in his life. And he gets an invitation from the Nakatomi Corporation for the 30th anniversary of his saving the Nakatomi building. They fly his family and Zeus from the third film to Japan, and they're in the other Nakatomi building. The Yakuza, it turns out that the Yakuza were involved with Hans Gruber and with the caper that was in the first movie. Yakuza shut the building down and attack, and it's McClane, now older and decrepit and not able to fight as well, and Zeus in this building taking on the Yakuza in a new Nakatomi Plaza. It would have been fucking amazing.
And Zeus, by the way, Tyler, that's Sam Jackson from the third movie.
Yeah, Samuel Jackson.
So yeah, so just so you understand, just imagine.
But why wouldn't Al Powell be there? Why wouldn't Al Powell be there?
I can't remember why he didn't have him in the screenplay, but he did release it as a book, which I purchased and have not read. It's called Old Habits, and it's on Amazon. And it's basically, so Fox bought this screenplay from the guy after he pitched it, and they were going to make it as Die Hard 6. And then Len Wiseman came along and said he wanted to do Die Hard Year 1, which would have been a flashback to McClane's first year on the force, the younger actor playing Bruce Willis, and they scrapped this amazing idea, which I think it was a terrible idea. Yeah. Because who doesn't want to, I want to see Bruce Willis and not a guy acting like Bruce Willis.
Yeah, yeah. And here's the thing, you can do both. Like you can still do your bad prequel, but you can only do that awesome sequel for a limited time. Like there's a small window.
And do you really need to explain John McClane, like his origins? Like, is that really the best narrative direction to go? So
origin stories always suck. Unless it's because when you know where a character ends up, you don't need to see Darth Vader become Darth Vader because Darth Vader's a badass. You get the idea of what happened. When they show it, it takes away from the character instead of building it up. That's just a personal opinion. May I, if you guys will indulge me for one more second, I wanted to read off some of the funny names of Die Hard in other countries where they didn't know what Die Hard meant. Is that okay? So in Hungary, the first 3 Die Hard films are called Give Your Life Expensive, Your Life is More Expensive, and The Life is Always Expensive. So that's the name of the 3 Die Hard movies, the first 3 at least in Hungary. In Finland, the movie is called Only Over My Dead Body, which I think is hilarious. In Serbia,
that's a Bond movie. That sounds like a Bond movie.
Yeah, it totally sounds like a Bond movie. This is my favorite. In Serbia, the movie is called Die Manly, which is freaking hilarious. And its alternate title is Skupo Prodaj Svoju Kozu, which means sell your skin at a high price, which sounds like a really bad spaghetti western starring Rick Dalton. But I thought that was really funny that they.
That's the literal translations of things, and you're like, you can't quite. You have to understand the culture to get what the phrase means. You know what I mean? Like it's
hilarious.
Like even my daughter, right? My wife is Vietnamese, so my daughters have Vietnamese names. And my older daughter Penelope, her middle name is Tan Thuy, and like we've spent years trying to figure out what it means, but it's like an expression that like means the feeling of peace you have when you're by a stream. Like that's like the best way you can describe it. But like that, it took us years to like. She's only 4, but it took us like all like forever to figure that out. It's like, oh, that's what it means. Because different people will tell us different things. So
absolutely. Alrighty, we should probably end this soon, Paul. Please check out So Fast and Furious podcast. My final thought on this movie is that I literally think this has one of the best bromances I've ever seen. Reginald VelJohnson is amazing. Bruce Willis is fantastic. Alan Rickman just knocks it out of the park. Ellis's death was great. And I give this movie 4 giraffes out of 2 koalas. So
that's mighty fine praise.
I wanted to come up with something random and stupid. It didn't make any sense. Yeah, as you should be. As you should. No, I think this movie is definitely a 9 out of 10 for me.
Cool. All right. Like that's about it.
So okay.
Thank you guys.
So the last things for me, right? Nothing about the movie, but be sure to find me at Josiah is Right. WRITE as in writer on YouTube and Instagram, and make sure, as you know, you are regular listeners, subscribe to us on YouTube at Grand Geek Gathering here, and subscribe to me at Josiah's Right on YouTube, and you will be entered to win a t-shirt. So you have to be subscribed to both channels, and then comment on this video and comment on a video on my channel, and you can win a t-shirt. So it won't be a Mickey Mouse ugly Christmas sweater, but it'll be an awesome Popmosis shirt, Grand Geek Gathering shirt, or Josiah is Right shirt. So be sure to do that.
And you can find me on Instagram as Arcade Blackfire, and doing this Popmosis.
Yeah, Vito, where can they find you and all the other stuff, all the plugs?
I am on Instagram as the title that you may or may not see here on the screen, _last_shogun. You can also find So Fast So Furious on all of your favorite podcatchers. And I also just released, well, I didn't release, but I did my first professional animation voiceover work for a short film called Two Grimm Brothers, The Mouse, the Sausage, The Mouse, the Bird, and the Sausage, which is very dirty and very funny, and I'm very proud of it. So please check that out on YouTube.
You did amazing. You did so many voices.
Thank you.
Crazy.
Excited to check it out.
And alrighty, well, thank you. Thank you for listening, and you can check out all of our shows and offerings on thegrandgeekgathering.com for our articles, our other podcasts, our videos, and so much more. I stream on Twitch as well. We have a Discord. Join in on the fun. We have a lot of fun. And also Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, And yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. The music has been provided by Carlisle Laurent. Go listen to So Fast, So Furious. Go to Josiah's YouTube channel as well. That video that you did about the last one you just did about the Empire or about Star Wars.
The Star Wars Holiday Special.
Yes, Star Wars Holiday Special.
So find that on my YouTube channel, Star Wars Holiday Special.
He does a great video on that. And yeah, thank you guys. Wear a mask. Have a wonderful week. And GGG. Yeah.
So what's on the silver screen? I got some takes you wouldn't believe. Popmosis Film. Grand Geek Gathering.